My last name has been Holland for 39 years now, so it's a great treat for me to finally be here with you in my home. So thank you. My name is Burke, Holland. The title of this session is VS Code Can Do That. I do work in Microsoft. I work on the Azure team, on the cloud, and my job is to make sure that JavaScript is a pleasant experience in the cloud, which it not always is. So I'm definitely a front-end developer. That's sort of my background. We work very closely with the VS Code team on the Azure team, and so like you, I spend a lot of time in an editor, and I've learned a lot about VS Code. I kind of switched begrudgingly a couple years ago from Sublime Text. I didn't want to move to VS Code, but I did so for TypeScript support, and then I learned a whole lot about it and thought, this is just the greatest thing ever. And so I just began to dig in more and more and more and started pulling out all of the cool stuff that it could do, and I realized a lot of people don't know all of the cool stuff about VS Code, so that's what we're going to do today. And in fact, there are no slides in this presentation. This is the only slide. The rest of this is just me and my VS Code setup showing what I know to you. Now I'm going to show you a lot of stuff this morning, a lot of stuff, and most of it you're going to see and then forget, and you're going to furiously try to take notes, maybe not. But if you're seeing a lot of things and it's slipping by, don't worry. If you make it all the way to the end of this presentation, I will give you one resource where you can go and get every single one of the tips that I'm going to show you on your own time, very slowly, so you can remember and retain everything from this talk. So before we get started, I want to give you a little bit of history on VS Code. In the year 2012, the number one song on the radio was a song called Rolling in the Deep by Adele. Do I have any Adele fans in the room? No, not that many. All right, well, hey, listen, I'm not that big of an Adele fan either, but in 2012, that was the number one song, like it or love it. The number one movie at the box office that same year was a movie called Drive. Anybody see that movie with Ryan Gosling? Yes, Ryan Gosling is a fantastic actor. I watch all of his movies on principle. In this same year, Microsoft makes a press release saying that they've hired a guy named Eric Gamma from IBM. And that's really weird because Microsoft hires a lot of people. They don't normally have a press release when people get hired. I did not get one. There was no press release when Burke was hired. And so Eric gets set up in Zurich, Switzerland in this office and begins to hire developers. And they begin working on tooling. Specifically, the tooling that they're working on is making a better developer experience in the browser-based developer tools. And they call it Project Monaco is the name of the project that they're working on. That's the code name. And Monaco begins to show up in some strange places, and we don't even realize it because it's just sort of a part of the tools that we're already using. For example, the Internet Explorer developer tools. The integrated Cloud Shell in Azure. If you use Azure, you can click a little button, and a little window pops open, and you get a CLI right inside of the browser. And eventually, Project Monaco becomes the core engine that drives VS Code, and VS Code is released in 2015. As of today, VS Code is by far the most popular text editor, specifically among front-end and JavaScript developers. Now, I tell you that story because there is a reason they made a press release about Eric Gamma. Eric Gamma is famous for something else. Before VS Code, he did something in a past life. Does anybody know what that is? It's okay. It's a bit of obscure trivia. Eric Gamma was the project lead on Eclipse. So the same person that gave us Eclipse has now given us VS Code, and now you know, as they say, the rest of the story behind VS Code. So let's go ahead and get started here. The first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that this is, VS Code is, if you didn't know, it is based on Electron or the Electron shell. It's powered by TypeScript, so we're actually building applications with sort of web-based tooling here. And if you've ever wondered if that's actually the case, you can open up the command palette, which is Command-Shift-P, and you can just say Developer Tools, toggle Developer Tools, and you can open the Chrome Developer Tools on Visual Studio Code. So I don't know if you knew that you could do that, but you can do that. And if you do that, you'll see that Project Monaco is everywhere. Monaco Shell, Monaco Container, Monaco Builder. So you can go through and inspect all parts of VS Code because it is, it's not a web application per se, but it is a very, very modern and fancy application that's built on web tooling. So that's the first thing. When you really get started with VS Code, what you want to do is you want to pick a great theme, okay? You want to have the best possible theme that you can have. And you'll notice that I'm using a light theme. So this is my light theme here and my terrible code. Now, a lot of people say you shouldn't use a light theme because according to science, bright white backgrounds are bad for your eyes. But it's 2018 and I don't care about science or facts, so I use a light theme. And sorry that I'm not sorry. However, for those of you who insist on being like Mr. Robot and picturing yourself as a hacker coding away, you could switch to a dark theme. Coming to your themes here, I'm going to give you a couple of good ones to choose from. One of them is one called Winter is Coming. There we go. This is a good one right here, very popular one. You'll notice it doesn't look nearly as good as the light theme, but there it is. Another quite popular one is one called Night Owl. This one is really popular. This one was built by our colleague Sarah Drasner. Winter is Coming was built by a guy named John Papa, also one of our colleagues. But let's go back to science for a minute. If we want to pick the theme that's scientifically best for your eyes, what's the one that's going to be easiest on you all day? Well, it turns out the easiest thing is a very dark blue background with very bright yellow text. Unfortunately, those colors are really garish and they're hard to look at. But nobody told that to Wes Boss, so he made one anyway. This is called Cobalt 2. Cobalt 2 is probably, scientifically, medically speaking, the best theme for your eyes, or so the experts say. So you can check those themes out. There are tons of themes in the theme gallery that you can go through, but there you have it. So I'm going to switch back to my light theme here, which I call Hoplite. Yes, enjoy it. You know you love it. Be your own person, it's okay. All right, so the next thing that we want to talk about is icons over here on the side. So over here we have two different types of theming in VS Code. There's regular themes and then there's file icon themes or icon themes. The icon themes just control the icons that are over here on the side, so like these little folders and things like that. Hands down, the best icon theme is called Material Icons. You can install that from the extension gallery here on the side. It's called the activity bar over there on the left. And if you just search for Material Icons, material icon theme right here, you'll know you have the right one because it's got almost 3 million downloads. So as I said, it is the best icon theme. And if you don't believe me, let me show you how you can know that for sure. If you create a file like, I don't know, index.pug, you get a pug. Look at that. How can you not love that? So that's Material Icons. You'll definitely want to check that out. The other thing that you can do in terms of appearance is you can mess with the font inside of VS Code. So you could code in Comic Sans, but we're not going to do that. We're going to use a different font. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into my user settings. I'm going to use my Command or Control comma here, or we can always go to the Command palette, which is Command-Shift-P, and then User Settings. So what I'm going to do here is just go Command comma, and that's going to take us into our user settings here. Now you can get Fira Code font by coming out to the web and going and searching for Fira Code. You can see right there, Fira Code up at the top. And this is a free font that you can grab here. You're going to go ahead and download this, and inside there's going to be a TTF file. You're going to double click that. Hope to God there's not a virus in there, and then install that into your machine. Now, once you have Fira Code and whatever virus has come along with it on your machine, you can now use this inside of VS Code. So let's come over here into our user settings. And you can see I've got a lot here, so I'm just going to come down to the bottom. You don't have to worry about that stuff up top. I'm going to say Command Option. I'm just going to go ahead and pull in, let's see, Fira Code like this. So I'm going to say the font family is Fira code. And then I'm adding another line here that says font ligatures is true. I'll show you what that is here in just a second. So I'm going to save this, and you'll notice that there's a slight change in the font, but it's very subtle. Burke, that looks exactly the same. I know, but check this out. Now that we have this installed, if we come over to an application here, so let's take a look at any one of these. Let's pull up something like this right here. So here we have some React code that I wrote, and I wrote it so that you'll know that I'm very, very smart. So I wrote it in React because I want you to be impressed with me. But let's take a look at what font ligatures do. So for instance, right here, when you have a double arrow, and you may have seen this in some presentations already, instead of an equal sign and an arrow, you get an actual fat arrow. Font ligatures are compound symbols, or symbols used to represent compound characters that we use to really represent one symbol. So another good example of this is something like equals, 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 right? So you get an actual double equals. Except this is JavaScript, so we need 3 equals, and you get an actual triple equals. And you can just mess around with this all day. If you do not equals, you get an actual not equals sign. And what's great about this is it doesn't affect other people's editors, right? So if they don't have font ligatures installed, the only repercussion there is that they aren't cool. They can still see the code, it won't mess them up, they just are not as cool as you are, and there's nothing that you can do about that, so I wouldn't worry about it. Okay, let's go ahead and come out of this here. Another thing that we can do here is we can mess with the cursor style inside of VS Code. There's a lot of settings in VS Code, and if you ever don't know what setting you're looking for, VS Code uses a natural language processing, uses artificial intelligence, it does, to try to figure out what you're looking for. So if we come over here, we just type, can I mess with the cursor? Yep, right there, editor cursor, and then we can just here, and then we can change the value here. So we could say smooth or phase, and I think I've already got it here over on the side. Maybe not, let's add it in. Let's just say, let's move it to phase. And then you can see we have here, and then let's zoom in on this. If we save, looks the same. Let's try a different one. What else do we have? We have expand. Let's look at expand. Ooh, very nice. Now we have an expanding cursor. So you can just go through and mess with these and decide which cursor style is the best for you. You don't want to be the only person out there with a plain cursor because that's quite boring and nobody will like you. All right, let's go back here. Something else that I want to talk about is this sidebar over here on the left. So this sidebar on the left is where you spend a lot of your time. It's where all of your files are. It's where what we call the file explorer is. There's different explorers that you can use. And you can see as we move here between the different items in the activity bar, the explorer bar changes. The sidebar changes, rather. It's important to note that this is the default in VS Code, but you may want to consider moving this to the other side of the screen, and I want to show you why. When you collapse the sidebar, which is Command or Control B, that's a shortcut you definitely need to know. You like this. Notice, because your code is left aligned, see how the code bumps out to the side? And you don't know this, you don't realize it, but your eye has to follow the code, okay? So your eye is moving to try to keep up with that. But if we take and we move the sidebar to the other side, so we're just gonna go View, move sidebar right, and ooh, that probably feels really awkward to a lot of people. It does to me too, it's like putting your shoes on the wrong feet. But watch this. Now when we collapse the sidebar, watch the code, just keep your eyes on the code. You see that? The viewport never changes, it doesn't jump around on you. So while that may feel a little bit awkward at first, it's actually gonna be a little bit better for your cognitive perception because your eyes aren't gonna be trying to keep up with this code that's sort of dancing all around the screen here. The other thing that you're going to want to do here is this thing right here is called the mini map. It's a small preview of your code that you can scan through. You're going to want to turn that off. Why? Because it's not good. You're not going to use it, so turn it off. So let's go over here to the user settings file and add in a line here, and we'll just say, let's turn the mini map off. Boom, it's gone. Life is so much better. Now we have a lot more real estate here. Let's see, a couple different other ones. Oh yes, if you really, really want to be cool in your VS Code setup, which of course you do, you can enable power mode. Power mode is an extension. So you should search for power mode. Power mode like this, you see power mode, you can install this extension, and then you're gonna come out to user settings, and you're gonna search for power mode, and you're gonna say enabled is true, set that to true, and now, when you come back to your code, we'll zoom in here. You've got power mode. Blah. Look at how great my code is. It explodes. And there's different things you can do with power mode. Obviously, that's not going to help you be very productive, but it will improve your outlook on life, and you'll be a much happier human being. So these are just some of the different ways that you can customize VS Code the way that you like it. And in the end, you will decide that my setup is the best setup, and you will try to make yours look like mine, and that's only a natural reaction. I understand that. Okay. Now that I've moved the file explorer, the sidebar, and I can't find out what's going on anymore, I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about something called Emmet. Who in here has heard of Emmet? Oh, lots of Emmet people in here. Okay, great. So this, for those of you who haven't heard of Emmet, it's okay. We're all starting somewhere. Emmet is a tool for creating markup that's quite rapid and quick. So just to go through a quick demonstration for those who haven't seen, instead of typing something like an open bracket or open caret div, and let me turn off power mode. Just go ahead and get rid of that. That was cool. Good for demos, not much else. All right. So we could type div, and then when we close the angle bracket there, it's going to close the div. Now you can create markup this way, but there's a lot of shift caret, and you'll mistype that a lot. So one of the other things we can do is just type div and then expand it with a tab. All right. But you can go a little bit further, so you can do like div.main, a class of main with an ID of, let's also say main, and then tab out, and you get a class of main and ID of main. And you can compose a ton of markup very quickly this way. So let me give you an example. If you did, let's do Emmet. Something like this right here. This is a rather complex piece of Emmet code here, and you don't need to try to learn all the Emmet syntax. There's a cheat sheet for that. You can learn it on your own time. I just want you to be aware of what it does, what it can do. But if I back up here a little bit and then just add this, you'll see that if I hit tab, we now get an expanded, the abbreviation here, and we've now created a rather complex piece of markup so that we can have a Bootstrap navbar, because of course it is scientifically impossible to build an application without Bootstrap. So now we have a Bootstrap navbar. We're well on our way to the best application on earth. There's a different way for us to create this same sort of markup, and that is something like this. So maybe we come in here and we have home, about, and contact, like this. So we can select all this, so we can open our command palette, which is Command-Shift-P. That's one you need to know. We're going to say wrap, just type wrap right here. Wrap individual lines with abbreviation. But before we do that, we're going to need our Emmet here. So let me just pull that back in. So let's pull in our Emmet. I'm going to grab this. Let's highlight again, come back. Wrap individual lines with abbreviation. I'm going to paste this in, but this time we don't need this 3 on the end because Visual Studio Code already knows that we're trying to wrap these lines, and you can see that they've been wrapped appropriately right on the anchor tag down here at the bottom, plus you get a preview, right? So we haven't actually committed to this command yet, so if we just escape out of this, everything goes back to the way that it was. So that's another way that you can use Emmet inside of Visual Studio Code. Now, there are some things that Emmet does that I bet not even the Emmet power users know about. And I'm going to show them to you. I'm going to enlighten you, Asim. So here we go. Let's say you've created an image, and you set this image source. So in our case, let's see, let's set it to this picture of Grover here. Now, when you have an image, you can do this, and this will work just fine, but we always want to have a width and height on our images. And that's because the browser reserves space on the page if it knows the size of your image. If not, then it doesn't reserve any space, and when the image gets loaded, the page jumps, and that's not a great user experience. And because we care so much about users, we want the best possible user experience, we want to know how big this picture is. So what do? Well, we come find the picture, say it's right here, and we can look down here at the bottom, we can say, oh, it's 640 by 640. But this is kind of a pain. You have to look up the size of your image every time and then go back in and add it. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to come back here, and we're just going to put our cursor at the end, open the command palette, and look for update, and say update image size, and boom, Emmet will automatically do it for you. Emmet knows how big images are, and it can automatically update them, the sizes inside of tags. And curiously enough, check this out, it also works. So let's say you have some sort of remote image. Let's see, this one right here is probably good. What does it look like? Yeah, so let's say you have an image like this. You're obviously going to want to show this to everybody. So you have this in your application. How big is this image? You don't have to know. You can just come over and say update image size, and boom, right there, you've updated the image size from a remote image, just an image on the internet. So that's a fantastic feature of Emmet that not a lot of people know about. The last thing Emmet can do is it can do math. So in case you don't know what 100 times 3 is, because you're having a very rough Monday morning, I understand. Just highlight this, type math, evaluate math expression, and now you know that it's 300. So these are some different things that Emmet can do. Emmet's a very core part of Visual Studio Code. You don't need any plugins. It's just built in, so you should check that out. The next thing I want to talk to you about is something called Prettier. Who in here has heard of Prettier? Wow, everybody in here is so well informed. What a great bunch of developers. This is awesome. All right, so for those of you who haven't heard of Prettier before, let's take a look at this. We've got a React component here, and up here at the top under the component did mount method, I'm not a React developer, to be honest, so I have no idea if this code is right or not. So don't use it. So on this component did mount method here, we have a fetch, and then sometimes this is what happens to us, right? It returns a promise, which we take and turn into JSON, which then returns another promise, and then we're going to do something with that. But we're not really sure what to do. We're like, this is too long. I think I'll move this down here. Then maybe I should move this here, and then I'll move this over here. And then does this need a semicolon? I can't remember. And so you're not really sure how to fix this. So what Prettier does for you is it just eliminates any of those decisions. There's a set of rules that you define, and you take them out of the box, and you let Prettier format your code for you. So what we can do here is just come up and say command palette and just say format document. And when I hit that, you'll notice that the document's automatically formatted by Prettier. Now something else that Prettier did that you didn't even see was that it replaced all the double quotes in this document with single quotes, and it added semicolons back in. How many people are coding JavaScript without semicolons? You and I, we're going to talk later. We're going to discuss. So if you have someone like Sarah who's not putting semicolons in their JavaScript, you want to put them back in, Prettier will automatically do that for you, or it will take them out, depending on which way you like to write your JavaScript. Either way is fine. So that's Prettier. Now, of course, you don't want to be hitting format document all the time. That's a pain. So you don't need to do that. You can let Visual Studio Code do that for you. So you can come back over to your user settings. You should be very familiar with this file by now. We can just say editor.format on save. We'll just set this to true. Go back to our artist file here, and then now if we come back over here, if I just hit the save, it automatically gets formatted just like this. Prettier is a very, very, very powerful tool for solving ridiculous and pointless developer debates, like whether or not to use single quotes or double quotes, semicolons or no semicolons. Someone decides, Prettier enforces, and everybody's code looks the same, right? That one person checking into code into GitHub that looks terrible, you don't have to deal with that anymore. You can let Prettier sort of be your style cop there. So that's Prettier. Let's talk about snippets. Snippety snippets. So let's open up this file here. Let me go ahead and collapse this. Let me just pull all this out. So you're probably familiar with the fact that there's lots of different snippets that you can use. You can create your own snippets by opening up user snippets here from the command palette. If you just look for snippets, you can toggle user snippets here. You can also install a bunch of them from the extension gallery. So for instance, I created some for React, which is odd because I'm not a React developer. So if you just say imrc, then you get to import React and component from React, because why would you type all that out yourself? That's like 27 characters. You have better things to do with your life. And then you can come over here and say, I need a class component with a constructor, and we'll just say there's an artist here. And of course, we're only going to listen to the best artist in the world. And then just like that, you have created something magical that you can now ship to your users. So these are snippets, and you can install this. This one's called Simple React Snippets. Now what's really cool about Simple React Snippets, other than the fact that I wrote it so that you know that it's very, very good, because I'm very, very smart, we're just going to go ahead and pull this out here. Let's take this out. Now let's say, of course, that you're building a real application. If you're building an application, what do we need? Bootstrap. We've got to have Bootstrap. So let's come back over. Let's go. I love this picture. I have no idea what's even happening. Is that a horse or a camel? I can't even tell. All right, so let's come down here to a nav bar. Let's say we go down, I don't know. This one looks good. We'll just copy this in. Perfect. Go ahead and paste it. Oh, but now we have a problem. This isn't going to work. Why not? Class. There's no way to fix this. I mean, other than using find and replace. You can fix it that way. Or you can do it manually. But other than that, there's no way to fix this, except for the fact that I have fixed this problem for you by adding a command called class to class name. So if we just do class to class name, boom, it's all updated to class name, and you're free to go on about your day, not worried about class and React anymore. Or you can just use preact, because preact supports class. And then, of course, we save this. Prettier knows how to format your JSX, which is pretty awesome. So yes, that is Prettier, and those are snippets. You can also do view snippets. So there's a package called view snippets from Sarah Drasner that allows you to very quickly create view snippets. And there's one call for Angular from John Papa that allows you to create Angular snippets very, very quickly. So if you're using one of those three things, then you'll want to check those out. If you're using jQuery, I'm sure there's some jQuery snippets. Hashtag never forget, right? We're never going to let that go. But I'm not sure what they are. I don't use them. Okay. Let's talk about, how much time we got? How long is this session? Does anybody know? 40 minutes? 50 minutes? All right, let's do this. Let's talk about type checking in JavaScript. So JavaScript doesn't have type checking, as we well know. And so what we do is we lint it. And that's fine, you can do that. There's an ESLint plugin for Visual Studio Code, where ESLint will just work inside of Visual Studio Code. It will underline and squiggly all of your things. Just look for the ESLint extension, you basically install it, you add an ESLint file, and it works. Something that TypeScript developers have that JavaScript developers don't have is very, very intelligent code checking. How many people in here are using TypeScript? A couple of folks, okay. These folks are, I don't know if they're not going to brag about this, or maybe they are, but they're very, very spoiled. And let me tell you why. TypeScript, because it's typed, Visual Studio Code can provide a ton of tooling around TypeScript. It knows all the methods, it knows the different types, it knows what methods are available, what methods are not available. It can track the progress of a variable through your code. So we don't have that as JavaScript developers, but it turns out that the TypeScript compiler actually works on JavaScript as well. So let me show you what I mean. In this file here, there are a lot of errors in this file. There's actually a ton. This code will kind of run in certain environments, it will, in certain environments it won't, because there's some stuff in the global namespace here and it's cause you some real problems. It'd be tough to check. Now, some of you may be able to find these mistakes as you sort of gaze through, but they're very subtle, right? And so they're kind of hard to find. So what we can do is we can use the TypeScript compiler to check our JavaScript. So we can come up here and do like this. And then we're just going to do an @ sign here, TS check. And then when I do that, it's going to underline all of the mistakes with a red squiggly. So you can see right here, and we can use F8. So I'm just going to hit F8 to toggle through these errors. Cannot find the name Rick. Well, that's because I need to declare that, so let's do that. Fix that mistake. All right, on to the next one. Cannot find the name X, same problem here. Fix that, F8 to the next one. Property length. Length is not a word. Doesn't exist. Did you mean length? Why, yes, I did mean length. Well, in this case, we now have a light bulb out to the side of the line here, which means the Visual Studio Code might be able to fix this for us. So if we hit Command, period, we get a menu here, and it says, change length to length. Let's do that, and boom. And then our last one here, let's go ahead, go down. Property blog does not exist. True, I wish it did. If console.blog was a property, my life would be a whole lot easier, but it isn't. So we'll go ahead and let Visual Studio Code fix this as well by changing it to log. So at this point, we're using the TypeScript compiler to check plain JavaScript, which is pretty cool. Now, you might have seen this demo and gone, Burke, I'm not seriously gonna put whack whack TS check at the top of every single file. No thank you, hard pass on that. I don't blame you. So what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna come to the user settings here, and what we're gonna do is look for a setting that you would never, ever, ever think to look for yourself, and it's called javascript.implicitprojectconfig.checkjs. So intuitive, I know. But once you find this setting, you can come over here and we'll just add it back in. We'll just set this to true. It copies it over. And now, let's come back to our file here. If we were to take this out, this would still work. So if I come down and I remove this let right here and click save, you can see it's still type checking our JavaScript, which is pretty rad. So don't let the TypeScript people have all of the fun and all of the nice things. They don't deserve them. You do. So add implicit project config check to your VS Code setup, and you'll be able to check your JavaScript just like the TypeScript people do. And of course, how do you know if somebody uses TypeScript? They tell you. Don't worry, they'll tell you. Exactly. Thank you, Sarah. That joke works for a lot of different things. It works for Vim. It works for CrossFit. There we go. I know. All right, so that's type checking. That's pretty cool. Let's talk about NPM. Anybody in here use NPM? Nobody uses Node. Come on, that's not a thing. Yeah, we use NPM, we use Node. We're big fans. I'm a huge fan of Node. Visual Studio Code provides some very interesting tooling around NPM and different things that you can do with NPM commands. So let me show you what that might look like. Let's go to a very impressive project, which is an Express app. So I've created an application here with the Express command line generator, and I'm ready to add Bootstrap and create something amazing. Now, the problem here is that I've forgotten to do something very important. Does anybody know what it is? If I was to run this, it wouldn't work. What have I not done? Yeah, I have not run npm install. Anybody do this? I do this all the time. I create a new project and I go in, I run it, and they're like, it doesn't work, it's crap. Well, because I didn't run npm install, that's the problem. So one of the things that Visual Studio Code can do is you can add in some functionality. There's some that's built in, we'll talk about that, but I want to show you some extensions that you can add in as well that make it quite easy to work with npm. So let's come over to our extensions, and we're going to search for one called npm. And this one right here, written by Eric Gamma, the man himself, so you know it's excellent. And this one's called the npm extension. It just adds in a lot of great functionality into your projects for npm. So let's go back to our Explorer here. I'm going to come over to package.json. And inside the package.json file, you'll see that there's a lot of stuff going on. Let me hide this for a second. I wasn't ready for that demo. Okay, so if we go to the package.json file, you'll see that all of these different packages are underlined. And they're underlined because they don't exist. I have not run npm install. So if we were to hover over, it's going to say module body parser is not installed. What a helpful message. So now we can come over and we can go Command-Shift-P, npm, install dependencies. And this will go ahead and run an npm install, and depending on what project you're in, it will either complete very quickly, or 2 hours later, all of your dependencies will be installed, and you can move on with your life. So now all of this is installed. I have noticed a thing here where you have to close out the package.json file, and then go back and open it up again, and now it works a little bit better. Now there's another tool that you can use, another extension, and it's called the version lens. Version lens. So if you come over to the extension gallery and install this, we'll just search for version lens. And version lens adds in some additional checking for npm inside of VS Code, but does it in a very interesting way. So check this out. It adds these commands up here to the top, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And what it's going to do is it's going to go through and look at all of the different packages that I have, and then it's going to tell me in line whether or not those are the latest versions of those packages. Because what happens with packages? There's no way to really know whether or not a package has been updated. So we don't really know when versions have changed. It's kind of a black box. But this way you can see, just from looking at the package, exactly what you've got here. So if we go to like the body parser, we can go ahead and move to the latest version here, and then boom, we've got the latest version. Now, we do need to run npm install again, but at least we're now referencing the right version. So that's called version lens. It does a couple of other things here. I don't know what this button does. Let's try it. Nothing. Okay, cool. And then of course you can turn it off by clicking this one here. What does this do? Oh, okay, installed, npm update needed, installed. Very nice. Okay, so that's version lens. That's a really cool tool. I like that one a lot. Let's talk about something else that Visual Studio Code can do inside of packaged JSON files, specifically in regards to npm. This one's so cool. How many people are familiar with the concept of IntelliSense? IntelliSense, right? That's when you type and the little window comes up and it tries to help you and suggest all the different methods that you have, especially if you're a TypeScript developer. IntelliSense is a very, very powerful tool.
I'm a TypeScript developer.
Are you a TypeScript developer? I thought you were a CoffeeScript developer. So Visual Studio Code actually provides IntelliSense in some really weird places. So if you're ever somewhere, so let's say you're Awesome and you're in this project, and you're like, okay, cool, Express is cool. You know what's cooler? CoffeeScript. So I want to add that in here. So I'm going to come down here and I want to add in CoffeeScript. Well, I don't really know what the package is called. Is it CoffeeScript? Is it Coffee-script? It's so hard to know. Well, what you can do is hit Control Space, and Visual Studio Code will actually go out to NPM and will begin to search the registry to try to help you complete the package name. So if we type coffee, what have we got here? No suggestions. What about coffee? Perfect! I could use coffee-script or CoffeeScript. One of them contains a virus. There's only one way to find out, and of course, that's the hard way. So let's go ahead and use this one here at the bottom. We'll hope that's the right one. Now what problem do we have? We don't know which version we need. Oh, so annoying. But Visual Studio Code knows that for you. And obviously, this is the wrong package because package 0.0.1-security of CoffeeScript is not the one that we're looking for. So instead of installing this virus, we'll install something else. All right, so that is IntelliSense inside of package.json files, extremely helpful with NPM. Now I want to show you one more NPM trick. This one comes by default with Visual Studio Code, but it is not on by default, so you have to turn it on. There is a way to add in your NPM scripts right here to the sidebar. Right here. There's a way to add them in right here so that you can see what you've got going. To do that, we're going to come to our user settings file, and let's go ahead and collapse this. And let's come down here at the bottom and go ahead and add in a new setting. And let's look for, what's it called? NPM Script Explorer. There we go. So I'm just going to say enable NPM Script Explorer. I'm going to open the sidebar. And then when I save, watch the sidebar. Boom, we have a new, there was like a bug that just flew in front of my face. We have a new little section here with all of our NPM scripts. And if I expand it, I can see all of my NPM scripts right here in the sidebar, which is super handy. And then we can just come and if you right click these things, you can open, run, or debug right here from the Script Explorer. So this is just a really nice way to see all of the different NPM options that you have. This is also in the command palette. If you just come up here and type in, if you have the NPM extension installed, type NPM and you can see all of your options there as well. So those are some very powerful tools for working with NPM inside of Visual Studio Code. We're running out of time here, so let's go ahead and jump over and do something kind of awesome. Let's go to this application here. This application is, I tell you what, I'm going to use Prettier to fix this. Boom, okay. This application is an application that's written in Angular. Any Angular developers in here? Where are my Angular people at? A couple of folks. What's everybody using these days? Who's using React? Oh, lots of people. Vue? Ooh, lots of Vue people. jQuery? Yeah, me too. Sorry, not sorry. What about Backbone? Where are my Backbone people at? Moo Tools. All right, let's stop before I get into trouble. Let me come down here. I'm going to collapse this. Let's go ahead and just run this. So what is that, Rowdy? Is it ng start? Is that what it is? I don't know which one of these to do. I swear I am a real developer. I'll just do run. Let's just run this one. All right, so this is going to go ahead and ng serve. That's it. That's what I was looking for. This is going to go ahead and run this. It's going to do whatever the heck Angular is doing here by getting all of my modules ready to go and then going ahead and launching the application. So this right here is what we call the built-in terminal. There's a terminal built-in inside of VS Code. You can do a lot of tricks with terminals too, but you'll use it frequently inside of VS Code. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. It's fine either way. So this application is going to build. Hopefully it's going to go a little bit faster than this. Come on, VS Code. get with the program, and then we'll take a look at this application. One of the things that VS Code can do is it can actually debug browser applications inside of VS Code. So if we look at this application, let's see if I can go. Roddy, can you tell them to put the URL at the bottom so I don't have to scroll all the way back up to the top? I can't even get to it now. I just happen to know what it is. It's 4200. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is it 42? Okay. I should be asking Asim. He's right here. Asim knows a thing or two about Angular and CoffeeScript. All right, so this is our application. It's going to load up. And we can search for an artist here. Let's search for Asim's favorite artist, which is Skrillex. He's a huge Skrillex fan. And then we'll go ahead and we'll play it. Oh, snap, there's a bug in our application. So what do? Normally we open the Chrome DevTools, and we can do that, or we can debug this inside of Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to come back here just very quickly, and I'm going to come back to our Explorer, or let's go to the debugger here. I'm going to hit this gear. I'm just going to select Chrome right here. It doesn't know. So I want Chrome. And then it's going to go ahead and it's going to automatically add in a launch configuration, which I'm just going to go ahead and save this. And now we can go ahead and launch this. And what this will do is it will launch a new browser window, and then attach the debugger. So here's our new browser window over here, and that's loading up. And then let's add in a breakpoint over here. So I just happen to know where this bug is. Isn't that nice? Isn't it nice to just know where the bug is? We've got too many things open, so let's just collapse this, get rid of the terminal. I'm using a lot of keyboard shortcuts here. So we come down here, and I happen to know that it's right here, but let's go ahead and drop a breakpoint. And then I'm just going to refresh to make sure we've got the right version here. Then we'll come back and search for Asim's favorite artist, Skrillex. You've got to branch out, Asim. So Skrillex here, and then we can go ahead and expand this, play it, and we're looking here, track censored name. That's not what we want. If we look at track, what we want is preview URL. That's what I want right there. So I'm actually debugging front-end code inside of Visual Studio Code. Now, I know that's a little bit weird for people that are used to being in the browser DevTools, but I just want you to consider for a second that debugging your code in the same place where you write it is kind of awesome. It's a little bit weird to debug in a different place, but you can use the Chrome DevTools, and that's totally fine. There's no wrong way to do this. So then we can come back here. I'll just say, okay, tell you what, let's just pull this out. Let's go ahead and save this. Come back over to our window here, which is refreshing. See if we can find Skrillex again. Go ahead and, let's see. It's all right, I don't hate it. All right, so I think we're right up on the mark, and I know that we need to take some questions, so I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much, that was extremely helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. I'm going to, yeah, not yet. We'll do a standing ovation here in a minute. Yes, we're running out of time. So I want to stop and take some questions. And I got some shirts that I'm going to give away as well. So
how are you going to give them away?
I'm going to throw them into the audience.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
It's going to be extremely awkward.
Okay, this is going to be
In fact,
great.
I'll answer questions while I'm throwing shirts. All right.
Okay, wow, I didn't know how powerful VS Code was. That was really, really interesting. Okay,
So
we've
great.
got some brilliant. I see it in a new light now. Okay. Right, the top question is, how do you add the little guy in ASCII art to the top bar of the VS Code?
Oh, someone is so observant. Oh my goodness. So, wow, that was an amazing question. Someone is into the details. All right, yeah, so up here, there's a little ASCII art person. So you can customize, it's the little things, am I right? You can't do that in Vim, can you? No, you can't. All right, so let's come back over here. I'm going to show you, if you come over here to user settings, a new version of Java is available. That's amazing. I want to install that right now. Oh my gosh, go away. All right, so window.title equals right here, and then you can just customize it. And then I just started putting a bunch of crap in there, like emojis and ASCII art and things like that, just seeing what it would let me do. And it turns out you could put pretty much anything in there. So there you go. Go ahead.
Do you know what? You've got loads of questions, but we haven't got a lot of time. Oh, it is coffee break. We can eat into it a little bit.
Okay. Oh wait, first I got a small. Who wants a small? Sorry, these are all dude-size shirts. I apologize. I don't have any specific cuts. Small up here. All right. I'm going to try to throw it. I'm obviously a developer, not an athlete. All right. I've got a medium. Who wants a medium? Right here.
Whoa.
Look at that. Okay.
That was nice.
That was a good throw.
How many have you got?
All right, this side over here. Small over here. We got a small right here. Oh, okay. All right, large. Who's got a large? We have a large. All right, here. I'm gonna go right up. This guy. Wait, really? That's like 500 yards away.
You can do it.
Oh.
Very good.
All right, what's our next question? I'm
Okay,
sorry.
next question is, does Prettier use the ESLint config?
That's a fantastic question. Prettier has a setting called use ESLint config, which basically gets its rules from ESLint. So you define your rules in ESLint. Prettier will defer and follow those rules instead of using its own. Great question.
Okay. All right, another one. I generally work with tens of open files in my editor, and their name is visible. Why does VS Code, why doesn't it support multiple line navigation bar?
Multiple line navigation bar?
So I'm
not sure I understand the question.
I'm not sure either. I'm picturing the tabs across the top, when you've got loads and loads of them,
And they're all the same file name.
you can't see the file name. That's not really a question.
No. You can mouse over and see. I think
Okay.
maybe the question is there's a different way to differentiate. So if you have like index, 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 which index do I have?
Probably go to the next line, below each other.
Oh, does it?
Rows.
No.
That's wrap.
No, I'm not aware that it does that, no.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Nice talk.
The next one isn't a question. It just says, fantastic presentation. Thanks a lot.
Oh, that's easy. You're welcome.
Very last one. How do you open VS Code in the terminal? From the
That's a great
terminal.
question. When you first install VS Code, it will ask you if you want to install code to your terminal. It's the code command. So I think it's, let me see. Forget it. It's somewhere in the command palette. And also, I don't know what the exact command is. And when you first install VS Code, it will ask you. It will automatically pop up and ask you. And you just say yes. And then once you do that, once you're in a directory like this one here, you just type code and then a dot. And then it opens up VS Code in that directory. So that's the answer to that question. Yeah, that's how you do that.
Amazing. Okay, everyone,
All right.
give it up. You still
Yeah,
got some shirts
few more
left,
shirts.
actually.
I got a
Yeah,
medium.
this is
Got a medium
entertaining.
here. Right here. Okay. Got an extra small.
Go long.
Who's feeling extra small?
Go long.
Right here. Okay. That was a pretty good throw. I'm kind of proud of that. Extra large, going to the other end of the spectrum. Okay, right there. Got a large, right here in the middle. All right, I got to get somebody in the front. I know people in the front are like, come on, you're trying to throw in the back. I got a couple more. I got extra large, right here. Okay. I got one more extra large. Who wants it? You got to work for it. All right, we got some shaking of the arm over there. I'm gonna have to do that. I lied. There's one more extra large. Ha ha! Let's go right here. This gentleman. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. That's all the shirts
Okay,
and
give it up
copies
for
we got.
Burke Holland. Thank you.